about to say what episode is. I'm Daphne.
I'm Gail.
And we're That's Disturbing.
Yes, we are.
Back for another episode. Woo woo! Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be here. What's up, Mom? How's your day going?
It's good. Super good. It's been a good day.
Good. My day would be better if more people would follow us on Instagram.
Oh, wouldn't that be so great?
That would be so great at That's Disturbing Podcast. And that's where we post, like, the images of people that we're talking about. Or, like, for instance, like, our first episode, the Annabelle doll. We posted the real-life Annabelle doll on our Instagram.
Yeah, that's where you'll find the photographs to go with the stories.
Yes, exactly. So follow us there. We also have a website. Mom, nobody has sent us a case request form.
Aww.
I know. So
day.
People are apparently just listening, but they don't want to hear their stories that they want to hear. Which, it's like, let us cater to you too.
Yeah, and that would give us some ideas.
Yeah, so send us a case request form at that'sdisturbingpodcast@gmail.com. No @ symbol in front of it. Sorry. That's just Instagram. And it's also on our website, which is that'sdisturbingpodcast.com. You can find the case request form there as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
You've covered all the bases of all the case request forms, and no one's requesting cases.
Nobody's requesting cases.
All the forms are just there empty.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, aw, sad day. Poor little baby Daphne.
Yes. Poor Daphne.
Poor little baby Daphne.
Yeah.
All right, Mama. What's your disturbing fact?
Okay, so my disturbing fact is, I don't know, I'm sure you had to have heard of the movie Poltergeist, right?
Ooh, yeah.
It's really old, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But because it's from 1982.
Yeah, that little girl died in it.
Well, yeah, lots of people. It's supposedly that movie's cursed, but anyway, that's not my disturbing fact. So my disturbing fact about that movie is that the scene where the mom is getting pulled into the swimming pool that's like not yet finished, it's kind of more of a mud pit by the skeletons.
Yeah.
They were real skeletons.
You know what? I've heard that before, and that freaks me the fuck out.
Yeah, because they said back in 1982 there weren't good replica skeletons that weren't like stupid expensive, or they weren't like super readily available. So that being said, they got the skeletons from Carolina Biological, and it's a company that provides medical and science supplies, and they sell human skeletons.
Huh.
So, yeah.
That is disturbing.
It is disturbing.
Why would somebody sell human skeletons?
Well, for medical students, classrooms, that kind of thing.
Right, but for movie sets or to some random weirdo?
Right. Well, and who knows if they knew it was for a movie set, or if, and to your point, a random weirdo.
Right. Like, who knows if people are witch doctors?
Right.
They're going to make some, how do you say it? Salves out of the bones.
Yeah, there you go.
The witch doctors.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just thinking.
But yeah, that is super disturbing. I've heard for a long time that movie was apparently cursed, and I could understand why then, because there's fucking real bones on set.
Yeah, I guess that's fair, but if you think about it, when they use real bones, like in classrooms and stuff like that.
Right.
Are the classrooms haunted? Or do you think the people, like, donated their bodies to be used for that purpose? I bet they did.
To be, like, sold? Well, I know, like...
Not to be sold, but to be used for, like, medical purposes.
Well, I'm sure, like, your dad, he donated his body to science.
He did, but...
Which I would do as well.
But they didn't use a skeleton because we got his ashes back.
Well, yeah, of course. Or did we? Ooh.
Right?
Now that begs the question.
Yeah.
Did we?
And I'm not even going to go there in my brain. Not about my dad, but... Okay, I can't help it. I'm going to have to, because that's disturbing. How do you get the skin and muscle and ligaments and all that off the bodies? Right? Do you boil them?
Ooh. How sad.
Well, I don't know.
Could you imagine? It's like you're looking down at your body, which you thought was going to science, and they're like just boiling your skin and stuff. It's like, hello, you're supposed to study that.
I don't know. Now I want to know. I think we're going to have to look that up.
You should write that down in the notes app on your phone.
Okay.
And let's talk about it next time.
Okay.
Let's talk about it. Because what we have going on today is a part 1, and next week it will be part 2 of this story. Not necessarily a case of a story.
Okay.
I keep wanting to call it a case, but it's not really a case. It's a story.
Okay. It's a story.
It's a story, man.
It's story time on That's Disturbing.
Story time. Who's ready for another story time?
Shall we get into it? Are you ready?
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about the Cecil Hotel, which personally I am fascinated by the Cecil Hotel. So that's why I wanted to bring this case forward. So the Cecil, it was named after another like very luxe hotel in London, which was very prominent at the time. So that's why the people picked that name. And they began construction on the Cecil in 1924. And it was built by William Banks Hanner. William Banks Hanner. Not Bakes. He's not baking any hotels. And the idea for it was that it was supposed to be like this like destination hotel for these elite people in society, right? For like the high class people, but also for like international businessmen, which were also at that time, like, I mean, still to this day, obviously, but like held a high class stature.
Okay, where is it?
In Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's cool. I honestly don't know I know not much of what you're speaking about.
Okay.
Sorry, words are hard tonight.
That's okay. That's okay. It's very interesting to me. It's just a super fascinating place. There's this Netflix series, which I highly recommend everybody watch when they get done listening to part 1 and part 2. And people there called it Hell on Earth. So we'll get into that, but I'm going to go through a little bit more history.
Okay.
So Hanner, he spent $1 million to build the hotel in 1924.
Jeez.
Which what I saw was translated from 2019. Okay. What I saw was translated. Oh, my voice just cracked. It was put up against today's money in 2019, and it was worth $13 million at the time. $1 million was worth $13 million.
That's crazy.
So
I mean, not the conversion rate, but
that's what I meant. A conversion rate. Thank you.
$1 million on a hotel in 1924.
Right.
It's a lot of freaking money.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of money today, too.
It is a lot of money today. Probably a Holiday Inn doesn't cost $1 million to build.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
You think?
I absolutely think.
Okay.
Because you have to pay for the land, pay for the, like, property taxes, pay for construction, pay the crews to build, buy all the bedding, buy all the beds, buy all the mini fridges, pay a staff.
Well, I'm not saying to run and operate. I'm saying to build.
Okay, well, still, you have to pay a staff to start building it.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, we've totally gone off the rails.
We have. So he spent $1 million in 1924 to start the build. And it was supposed to be a Beaux Art style hotel. So it had like a marble lobby. Like the lobby's just all completely marbled, right? It's this luxe, grand, opulent hotel with stained glass windows. There's palm trees all around it because, like I said, it's in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And there's a grand staircase, and this design was created by Loy Lester Smith.
Okay.
And the proximity of the hotel was nearby the Pacific Electric Railway, which was the largest electric railway in the world. So there's thousands of people passing through this railway a day, right?
Yeah.
And so, that was the appeal for everybody, like, come stay at the Cecil, like, this is going to be huge, and it's right next to this railway.
Right, so easily accessible during your travel.
Right, which, of course, who's riding the railway? Who can afford it? Rich people.
Or hobos that just jump it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
Those people, too.
Well, because I'm thinking 1924, so it's hobos. That's the correct terminology, I believe, for 1924.
How about unhoused people as well?
That's current.
Well, still politically correct.
Yes.
So it was surrounded by theaters, shopping, restaurants, and it was near the Spring Street Financial District. So it's in a rich area all within itself, right? Downtown Los Angeles. It's on Main Street in Los Angeles.
Okay, what's Main Street in Los Angeles?
Exactly what it sounds like. Main Street, like it's the place.
Okay. So it's actually on Main Street?
It's actually on Main Street.
Okay.
In downtown Los Angeles.
Okay.
So
I'm so not familiar with Los Angeles.
I believe when I went to Los Angeles in 2017 or 2016, I'm sorry, I only saw like the outskirts, because what we're going to get into next or shortly here is that it's located very close to Skid Row. So I only saw a little bit of it. I saw a peek of it because of Skid Row and obviously not going near there. But I think it's located pretty closely to like the stars.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Which is like the Sunset Strip, I believe.
Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, that's a long stretch. It's a long distance down that road as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's where my favorite show is recorded.
Right, and that's in
Sunset.
Isn't that in Hollywood?
That is in Hollywood, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, too much geographic information.
Well, I feel like at this point, it's all kind of like a Mod Podge.
Okay.
Like, Los Angeles is like Los Angeles and the greater area, whether it's like proper or not. People still call it Los Angeles.
No, agreed.
So the hotel actually opened in the year 1927. And so the first death that was reported was on January 22nd, 1927, when Percy Ormond Cook, he was 52, he committed suicide with a gunshot to the head.
Wow. And it must have just opened because it's January of 1927 and it opened in 1927.
Yep.
So
he was a cook in the hotel and he killed himself in the evening, apparently because he couldn't get along with his wife and his child. And the Los Angeles Times, they said that it was reported that he was rushed to the receiving hospital, which was a nearby hospital, with a small chance of survival. But the death records show he died that same evening.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah, so he killed himself because he couldn't get along with his family.
Well,
that's sad.
That is sad.
Like, get a new family. Don't kill yourself over them.
Right. Or get divorced and then you could still hang out with your kid and figure that relationship out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very sad. So, like I said, it had these plans to be an opulent hotel for the rich, for the international businessmen, for like the elite people in society, and the Hollywood tourists as well. And then, obviously, we talked about 2 episodes ago with the Lawson family murders in 1929, the Great Depression hit.
Yeah.
So at this time, rather than it being a hotel, it was kind of in this time period when they started to transition it to be more like a tenancy style place rather than like a per night. Like it was short-term tenancy.
Okay.
So it was a little bit more affordable for people.
Okay.
And then it was in close proximity, like we talked about, to Skid Row, or it is still in close proximity to Skid Row.
Okay, so Skid Row back then, still Skid Row today.
Let's have a little history session.
Let's do it.
My notes are even labeled "History Time!" exclamation point.
Love it.
So when the railroads were first being built in the 19th century, the term skid. Well, I can't English. The turd Skid Row.
It's a real turd.
The term Skid Row first came into use. So, like I said, the first railroad was built in the Pacific Northwest, and these logs were used to make the tracks of this railroad, right? Which were then sent to building sites, and these building sites were called skid roads. So that's how it got its name.
Skid roads?
Skid roads.
Okay.
So these roads, they were made of logs.
Cool.
And it be, doing that and made it easier building these roads out of logs instead of traversing on mud or whatever else, whatever terrain, grass, just dirt.
Right.
It made it easier for people to move along.
Okay.
And from sites to sites. And for people to move these logs and move whatever else, equipment.
Okay.
Whatever other building materials they needed to move. So the workers who built these railroads, they were mostly transients. They were immigrant men. And as the building started of the railroad, businesses that catered to these men just began to pop up everywhere, right? There's these random men from out of town, not familiar with the area, so people were like, let's cater to these men.
Okay.
And most of the time, these were brothels, of course, and bars.
Well, yeah.
Because that's what people wanted, because they're away from their families. And at this time as well, that's when single room occupancies hotels, so they're referred to as SRO hotels, began to be built to house these people as well.
Okay.
So it's a little interesting fact.
That is really actually very interesting.
So when the men worked and they had money to pay for prostitutes and alcohol in hotels, it was great times, good times for them.
No kidding.
Right? However, the jobs were mostly seasonal because of their own weather conditions or whatever.
Okay.
Time to get materials, whatever the reason is, they were mostly, short term.
Okay.
And so jobs were hard to find at this point. And when the men didn't have jobs, they often just still got drunk and slept in the streets. So that's kind of where now we're seeing that term come into play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this homelessness and then the skid roads.
Okay.
So the number of alcoholic men in this group, they completely just, flooded the streets because they're out of work. They didn't have any money to pay for hotels or to stay anywhere else. And so they're sleeping on the streets and they're drunk.
But they have money for booze.
They have money for booze. So in response to their needs, these, unhoused individuals' needs, a bunch of groups again started popping up, opening their doors to these people, such as like religious communities. And these were places where men could stay, they could eat, and then they could also be preached to.
So they're trying to save the people or something along those lines. Like they're trying to save them physically, but also probably maybe mentally, since they just are drunk on the street.
Yeah. Basically.
But physically also trying to house them, feed them, presumably clothe them.
What pops up in my mind now that I'm like saying all this out loud, not just reporting on this, not just researching all of this, now I'm actually speaking it. Like how we see the Jesus Saves signs everywhere. And they're on like all of these, like we have one in Denver called the Denver Rescue Mission.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that they're located everywhere where, camping is available. It's not against the law for people. So I'm sure that that's where that also came from. The Jesus Saves and having that was from this kind of time.
I'm sure you're probably right.
Yeah, that just clicked in my mind.
Or it's a good theory if you're not right.
Right. Or it's a good theory.
It should be right if it isn't.
So people that weren't homeless, they thought that these areas were bad and dangerous and dirty, obviously. So the skid rows, again, they got their name from skid roads, and that because these ran through the middle of these neighborhoods, right?
Mm-hmm.
The logs all ran through the middle of these neighborhoods, so it was easier for these people to move the materials, and that's how we get the name Skid Row.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So at the end of the 19th century, all these rail lines were being built in Los Angeles, which were able to connect to Southern California and to the rest of the nation. And they were built just at the end of East Los Angeles at the historic core, which was, very busy at the time. Like I said, this Pacific Electric Railway was super busy. People flooding through it all the time.
Okay.
So vibrant area. It's in the busy downtown of LA.
Okay.
And as in other cities, there's brothels, bars, SRO hotels, and all these missions that, just grew and continued to serve these men who worked on the railroads. And then later the men, they went west, they were
west. How much further west can you go?
Yeah, no, a lot of men came out west to continue to work on these railroads and find work and opportunities because, they see these people who are being employed by the railroads building and they're like, oh, what a great life. There's all these resources out there for them too. But then they get out to LA, out west, out to, take the train, presumably, out there, and then there's actually no work for them.
Oh, that's really sad.
Right. So
that's kind of like the pot industry in Colorado.
Yeah.
Like people came out here to work that industry when it became legal, and then it was flooded and there wasn't enough work for everybody. And then our homeless population
skyrocketed.
Really increased, yeah.
Well, also, like, along those lines, it costs so much money. It's like people come out here super uneducated, just thinking, I'm going to get a job working in a dispensary or trimming weed or whatever they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it costs I think it costs like $2,500 just to even obtain your license to do those things.
Wow.
Because you have to, like, obviously do all these past, like, you know, you have to get screened, make sure you don't have like a criminal history, drug abuse history, like all these different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then take these courses on it and like safe consumption and all this to be able to talk to people through while they're buying or whatever. Like these licenses cost a lot of money. So like people aren't becoming educated enough before moving out here to realize that that's what's going to happen when they get out here, and then they can't afford to do any of those things and they wind up homeless. It's terrible.
It's terrible. But in the early 1900s,
they didn't have
there's no way to get that information other than like, oh, hey, my Uncle Henry went to work on the railroad.
This was the late 1800s,
okay.
19th century.
So late 1800s. My Uncle Henry went to work in Los Angeles on the railroad, and he is living the high life. And so out goes 5 of Billy's friends to find Uncle Henry to get the work.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. I don't know what happened there.
I don't either. So again, it's the end of the 19th century, at the time, the late 1800s.
Okay.
So Skid Row in Los Angeles, it's been known for its mix of like cheap hotels, these industry people, and religious missions, as well as workers, people down on their luck, and poor and disabled individuals.
Okay.
So really sad. And
it's
then
really sad.
During the Great Depression, which is, you know, this is the time where the Cecil kind of comes into play with it too. A lot of men from other parts of the United States moved to Skid Row in Los Angeles in order to find work. Again, they're moving out west thinking, well, it's the Great Depression here, but maybe it's not the Great Depression there.
Right.
So they're moving out west, and then they wind up on Skid Row. But on Skid Row, again, they are able to get these resources, like missions that come and give them food. Sometimes they get shelter through this. Sometimes they get money.
Okay.
Sometimes they get a place to even live for a short period of time.
Okay.
So not just shelter for a night, you know, but they're housed while they get their
temporary
together.
Housing. Right.
So this population, they moved around a lot during and after the Great Depression, like well into the 50s, 60s, 70s. But in the 70s, things changed in like a huge way, because in the past, the population was mostly just alcoholics, like we talked about. But in the 70s, like referring to time, there's Vietnam War veterans, right?
Aww.
So men with PTSD and also heavy drug users are joining this population. And then there were these laws. Obviously, Reagan passed these laws that said, like, no more mental health stuff, kick them out.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, we definitely don't take care of our mentally ill, homeless community.
No, we don't. It's horrible.
No.
It's
mental health in the United States, mental health care in the United States, especially for the homeless.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, all these people with PTSD, drug problems, alcohol issues, we're just being housed in hospitals, being treated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then these laws are passed. The hospitals are forced to kick these people out. And so it's really sad. It's really tough times. So, you know, apparently it's said that, you know, some of this was done with good intentions because the government like wanted to provide community treatment instead of hospital treatment. But obviously that didn't work out.
Right.
Because it never happened.
What's community treatment?
I believe community treatment's just like treatment facilities, not hospital.
Okay.
Because, you know, when you think of hospital, you're thinking people who like surgery, having babies.
Right.
Car accident, like
so
emergency.
Specifically designed for mental health care.
Right.
And drug use, maybe, like rehab.
Yeah. So these people needed to be stable enough, obviously, to leave the hospital, but a lot of them didn't have anywhere else to go but Skid Row. And on Skid Row, again, there's these resources for them to get services and, sheltered and find a place to sleep for the night.
Yeah.
So it's a sad, dark history.
Yeah, that's really sad.
Yeah, it's horrible.
But thanks for telling us all about Skid Row.
I think it's super interesting.
It is super interesting.
And with its proximity now to the hotel.
Okay.
Like, basically, you turn around the bend and Skid Row's right there from the hotel.
Okay.
So that's worth noting. Now, I guess I don't know if I included that or not.
You did. You said it was, like, right there.
Yeah. Very, very, very close to the hotel.
Okay.
So now we're going to go in chronological order about some of the events at the hotel.
Okay.
So this is in the year 1931. So this first one is kind of confusing. Okay. This first 1931 bullet that I have.
Okay.
Is slightly confusing because one resource I found said this person's name, which I thought it was worth mentioning. But there's another person here as well in the 1931 bullet point. So November 19th, 1931, Preston Handley Hicks, who was 83 at the time, ingested poison in a possible suicide.
Oh.
So who knows?
That's not a good way to commit suicide.
Yeah. Like my dad always sings, "Don't try suicide, you're not going to like it."
Okay.
Which, heavy trigger warning about a lot of suicide in this episode.
Okay.
A lot of suicide within this episode.
Okay.
And then this is the name that pops up more frequently, was W.K. Norton, who lived in Manhattan. He was found dead in his room. He had taken poison capsules, and a week before he was found dead, he had checked into the Cecil from Chicago under the name James Willies.
Well, that's weird.
So he's using a pseudonym, and he's from Chicago, but obviously, they found out his real name.
Wow.
Which I didn't find a lot of information on this individual. It's 1931.
Okay.
But.
So it's either or, it's not and.
I don't know.
Okay.
I see more information about the W.K. Norton, but I thought the other one was worth noting.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, obviously, I guess I said it was the first death. Not the first death, because there was the cook who killed himself.
Right.
In, the month it opened.
Yeah.
But, the first suicide of the hotel.
Okay.
So then, September 1934, Benjamin Dodick, I think that's how you say his name, Dodick, I would assume.
Sure.
He was 25. He committed suicide, and he killed himself, gunshot wound to the head. A housekeeper found him, and there was no suicide note alongside of his body.
Gosh, why do people go to a hotel to commit suicide? I mean, I guess so that their families don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And they can get away, but...
Right.
Yeah.
So sad.
Suicide's sad.
Suicide's horrible.
Yeah.
Breaks my heart.
Yes.
I suggest nobody, if you need somebody to speak to, there's suicide hotlines, and I'm sure everybody has somebody that loves them.
Everybody has somebody that loves them.
And that would be willing to listen.
Yes.
It's not the answer.
No, it is not. Good PSA there, Daff.
It's important. It's sad.
It's very important.
We're definitely going through a mental health crisis in the United States right now.
We are.
So I think that it's a good time to mention these things also. Just, somebody out there loves you. Don't kill yourself, please.
Yes.
All right.
Agreed.
So in July 26, 1937, Sergeant Louis D. Borden, who was 53, he was found dead, and he slit his own throat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just poison, slit your throat. Those are all really bad ways to die.
We got a really long list of death here, so
okay.
Buckle in.
Okay.
He was, so the Sergeant Borden, he had been in the Army Medical Corps. Corps. That's what I thought, but then
Army Medical Corps.
I confused myself just looking at that word. I confuse myself a lot, and I can't English half the time, so... Anyway, end rant, back on track. He was found dead in his room at the Cecil, again, at the end of July. He used a razor to cut his own throat, and he left several notes. And one of them, he said that he had committed suicide because he was sick. He had health problems, and he just wanted to end it.
Aw, sad.
That is sad. Very sad. And then in March 1938, Grace E. Magro, she was 25, she fell out of a window on the 9th floor. Nobody knows if this was an accident or if she killed herself, but she got wrapped up in telephone wires when she was falling. And so these, like, broke her fall, if you will. However, she later died at the Georgia Street Receiving Hospital, which has since then been torn down. And again, nobody knows if it was suicide or foul play or an accident that she fell out of her 9th floor window.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know how you fall out of a window.
I don't either. I can't understand that.
No.
I feel like it'd be on purpose or you get pushed.
Yeah, one or the other, for sure.
Right?
Because I've been near a lot of windows in my life, and I've never accidentally fallen out of any of them.
Right, and they're not screens on these windows. I guess if they are, they're not going to break your fall back in.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if you, like, slipped on something and you're right by the window. But, yeah, my theory's not checking out. Let's just end that.
And how low are the windows that you could actually fall out of them if you did slip?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've stayed in a lot of Holiday Inns with short windows. Moving on. Our next deaths were in 1939. And in January of 1939, Roy Thompson, who was 35 at the time, he committed suicide by jumping out of a window.
Okay. So I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, lots of suicides.
Well, besides the suicides, window theme.
Well, okay. In May of 1939, Irwin C. Neblett, he was found in his room. He was a Navy officer. He had ingested poison. And we don't know if it was a suicide or foul play.
Again with the poison.
I was going to say there's several themes you should be picking up on here.
Yeah. Suicide, poison, windows.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, it's sad. But, you know, this is why this place has such a tainted history.
So is it haunted?
We'll talk about that.
Obviously spirits are going to be there, but, like, did they think that all this suicides and stuff or because...
We'll talk about that in part 2.
Okay. Well, what I'm wondering is if they think...
Inquiring minds want to know.
Inquiring minds want to know. Wondering, like, if people go to this hotel and they're just, like, normal, like, I just came to go to this hotel and I'm just going to hang out, and now all of a sudden I'm suicidal.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe. That's a theory, that's for sure.
Okay.
I don't know, because there's not a lot of background on any of these people, right?
Yeah.
It's like, were they showing these tendencies? Like, what the actual fuck happened here? Like, there's not a lot of...
Okay, that's fair.
There's not a lot of knowledge regarding those things.
Okay, so I'm just throwing shit out there.
Yeah, but we'll talk about hauntings and all of that.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously this many people die in a hotel, there's going to be spirits that linger and are connected and
right
that don't go anywhere.
Yeah, they're stuck.
Yes,
they're stuck on this plane.
Yeah,
in spirit form.
Yeah,
on a different plane, but here they didn't go up or down. They're just here.
They did not.
On a different dimension. So January 10th of 1940, Dorothy Seeger, she was 45. She ingested poison to commit suicide. So Dorothy, she was a teacher, and she signed up under the name Evelyn Brent. And then she took this poison, right, while staying at the Cecil on January 10th, 1940. The Los Angeles Times said that said that she was near death before she did it, and that she wrote a note to her family telling them she was going to kill herself. She died at the General Hospital on January 12th, 1940, after obviously succumbing to the effects of the poison in her system.
Okay.
So she died 2 days later.
No, I get that. But why would you go under a fake name in the hotel if then you're going to kill yourself and leave a note for your family?
I don't know.
How are they going to get the note to your family?
I'm not sure a lot of the logic behind.
Okay.
Like, honestly, I'm not sure the logic behind wanting to take poison as opposed to shooting yourself, because then it's fast.
Right.
And not painful. Like, poison, you probably feel your whole body, like, ripped apart. Like me when I have too much dairy. Like, I feel like I've been poisoned. It's probably a terrible comparison because people commit suicide by eating poison. But I'm just saying, I feel like my whole body is, like, being clawed from the inside out.
Relatable.
When I eat dairy, or when I consume dairy, I should say.
Relatable.
Because, I mean, obviously I don't eat milk, I drink milk. But I don't drink milk because then I feel like I'm being poisoned. So, okay. Yeah, that little note. September 1944, Dorothy Jean Purcell, who was 19, she killed her newborn son.
Aw.
So Purcell and her 38-year-old boyfriend, his name was Ben Levine.
Creeper.
He's
38 and she's 19?
Oh, I was like, love Adam Levine. What's the problem with the last name?
No, it's not that. It's that he's 38 and she's 19.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it's the 40s. Like,
so?
They're getting married off real young for the all-American dream and family. Why he wasn't already married and had somebody his own age is beyond me. But, yeah, anyway. He sold shoes, and that's so, like, off our topic.
Thanks for that. He sold shoes.
Okay, yeah, he sold shoes for a living. That was his living. And they were sharing a room together at the Cecil. And then she went into labor, even though she didn't know that she was pregnant.
Okay.
So she later testified that she didn't want to disrupt her boyfriend who was sleeping. So she went to the bathroom, gave birth to a baby boy, and then she proceeded to throw the baby out of the window because she thought he was dead. And then he landed on the roof of a building next door. So that's fucked.
Yeah, that's really sad.
It's so fucked.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Like, how, I guess we hear this all the time again, that people don't know that they're pregnant. But, oh my God, like, how would you not know?
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
I haven't had a period in 9 months. I'm a woman. What's going on? What do I think is going on?
Right. What could it possibly be?
Right. And I'm 19. It's probably not menopause. It's probably not the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
It's probably, I don't know, a baby. My stomach feels weird. Oh my God, what's kicking me?
Right.
And I didn't drink dairy and I didn't eat poison. Yeah, like what the fuck?
I don't know.
And not to wake your boyfriend, like fuck your boyfriend. Well, obviously you did, but
well, and how are you going to have a baby in the bathroom quietly?
Yeah. There's that other thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no epidural, no of the, what is it, like the spine tap? People get
the spinal.
Yeah, spinal when they're pregnant, or they're in labor, I should say.
Uh-huh.
Not just that they're pregnant, but they're giving birth.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, why, were you pooping so hard? You just pushed really hard and out came a baby? Like, what's wrong with you? And you didn't know you were pregnant.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. So again, she threw the baby, and then she was charged with murder.
As she should have been.
Yeah, so 3 psychiatrists, psychiatrists and psychiatrists.
I'm like, psychiatric what?
3 psychiatrists said that at the time of the incident, she was mentally confused. So she was not found guilty because of reasons of insanity, and that was in January of 1945.
That's stupid.
Obviously the following year, or the following, like, couple months after she murdered her own baby.
That's stupid.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I wonder what she went on to do for the rest of her life.
I don't know.
I didn't really find much information on that.
Okay.
Like, at all.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, like, is this a pattern? Do you never know that you're pregnant? Because she's probably stupid enough to get pregnant again. I'm just wondering.
Did her boyfriend keep selling shoes and dating her?
Right, exactly. What the fuck? So then, in the year of 1947, this has never been confirmed, but apparently the Cecil has ties to the Black Dahlia murder.
Okay. Doesn't everything in Los Angeles have ties to the Black Dahlia murder?
Well, it was reported that apparently a few days before Elizabeth Short was murdered, that she was visiting the bar and had a drink at the bar.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
I don't know how people would be like, oh yeah, that's that girl. But, yeah.
I don't know. She obviously didn't post it on her Instagram.
Yeah, right. That's like, oh my God, I have the funniest little short story to tell you guys, and then we'll get back to this.
Okay.
I'm posting the Lawson family on Instagram. And my mom goes, are you going to tag them? I'm like, Mom, they died in 1929. I don't think that they have Instagram. I don't think I can tag them. She's like, well, you know what I mean? I'm like, no. What you said was, are you going to tag them? I'm like, I really don't think that they're on Instagram. I can write in the caption who's who, but I don't believe that they're on Instagram.
I meant to label the photograph.
Well, she's like, you know how, like, when you click on a picture and it shows who's in it? I'm like, yeah, that's called tagging. I believe that they all died in 1929, and that they don't have Instagram.
I'm going to go with you're correct.
Sorry.
And you made me feel like an idiot.
Well, back to the story. Apologies for making you feel like an idiot.
No,
it was just hilarious to me that she goes, can you tag them? And she's like, well, I don't know how really how Instagram works. I'm like, okay, so for your next episode, you're posting on the Instagram.
Okay.
We're going to learnicate you today.
I just don't care for social media a lot, but that's okay.
Right, but it's how we spread awareness.
It is.
It's our brand awareness.
Yeah, no,
Because at the moment, we have no word of mouth because nobody's following us on Instagram.
Shit. And it's not that I have anything against social media. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Because I prefer to live for real.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's this warped fantasy of how everybody wants other people to see their lives, and it's not really that way at all.
Exactly.
Unless you're a really real human who's like, today I cried 5 times in the shower.
Aw. Don't say stuff like that.
But you know what I mean? Unless you're like a real ass person who's honest about not like, oh my god, this weekend I went to Tulum, and then next week I'm going to Hong Kong. I'll share pictures of the flowers.
And let me take pictures of my perfectly stacked Oreos in a jar.
Yeah.
Because nobody gives a fuck.
Right? Exactly. Let me show you organizing my fridge. Like, don't fucking lie. Your fridge is not going to be that organized the second you pull out one of your fucking cans of your prebiotic or probiotic, whatever, Poppy soda. It will not stay that way.
Nope.
Also, Poppy, sponsor us. I love Poppy sodas.
I've never had it.
I used to get them. They're delicious.
I believe you. I just have never had it.
I love them.
Okay.
They're yummy. They make my gut feel good when I eat dairy.
Good.
Okay. Sorry, that was so off track.
It's okay.
So offbeat.
It's okay.
So the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, right? She was found murdered in Leimert, I think that's how you say it, Leimert Park neighborhood of Los Angeles on January 15th, 1947. And her death was just absolutely gruesome, totally fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Somebody, like, carved a smile, I think, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Carved, like, a little Joker smile under her cheeks. That was an American Horror Story, and I'm getting the two mixed up.
Way to do your research before you just...
Well, no, because I want to actually cover the Black Dahlia.
Okay, well, then stop giving details and information.
Ironically, I shouldn't say this, but it's my favorite murder case.
Yeah, you shouldn't say that.
It's fascinating to me, though.
It is fascinating.
And it breaks my heart, because I just feel like, when I look at her picture, I'm like, wow, she was going to have been somebody, and it sucks that this is how she is somebody. Because, she moved to LA as an aspiring actress.
Don't give too many details.
I'm just saying, like, that's what she did. Okay. She moved to LA she was aspiring to be an actress.
I know all of these things, but don't give us any stories about her.
Okay, anyway, her murder was absolutely terrible, and it's unsolved. Thank you.
Stereo.
And then again in 1947, in November, Robert Smith, who was 35, he committed suicide by falling from the building.
From the building? Out a window or, like, off the roof?
It just said falling from the building.
Okay.
So I don't know if he was on the roof.
So he could have been a window washer on scaffolding, cleaning the windows and fallen?
Yeah, I don't know.
God, I hate it when you can't find information out.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
Well, there's some in here that people talk a lot about.
Right.
And then there's others which aren't so much. But we're going to save the big one for episode 2.
Okay.
Which is like the most notorious case.
Okay.
From the Cecil.
Story or case?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Alrighty.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like, all of these are like mini cases. It's just a story overall about the Cecil.
Okay. That's fair.
Then October 22nd of 1954, Helen Gurney, who was 55, she died by suicide. She fell from her 7th floor room, and she landed on the Cecil's marquee. And ironically, also, she registered at the hotel with the pseudonym of Margaret Brown 1 week prior to her committing suicide.
What the fuck?
I don't know. See, I feel like maybe it had this, like, I mean, even I know it as, like, this reputation of being a bad, dirty, terrible place where people go to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it still had that reputation at that time. Like, just like that first suicide that happened there. It's like, It's like the suicide forest in Japan. I think it's in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one person died there, so now everybody wants to die there.
Yeah, it's bad. Well, and maybe the reason I was just thinking this pseudonym is because if their families are looking for them, they don't want to be registered under their real name. So that way, if their family's like looking for them and like, hey, is so and so registered here? Then no.
Right?
Not.
Who?
Yeah. Just a thought.
Well, I feel like that's fair because I feel like a lot of people go to hotels to like escape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people go to hotels if they don't want to be found. So why not check in under a pseudonym?
Sure.
That's a good point, that they don't want to be known who they are.
Okay. I don't know. I've never thought about it like that because I've never gone to a hotel to not be found. I've just gone when I've been on vacation or something.
Yeah, me too. I'm just saying, though.
And nobody's ever really looking for me, so I don't know what it's like to not be found when no one's looking for you.
Right? Exactly. Like, come find me.
Right? Where's Waldo? Where's Gail?
Where's Gail? Where's my mom? Did somebody under the name Gail check into the hotel? No, but we have a Darcy. Oh, that might be her. Can I get a room key?
Sure.
Right? Yeah, it is weird though. Anyway. So in 1962, we have a couple of different stories within 1962.
So that's a big gap.
Yeah, from 1954 to 1962.
Mm-hmm.
So
8 years.
Give the Cecil some credit that nothing happened at that time.
Or nothing was reported.
Right. Well, there's also that factor. But I mean, in like the Netflix series, I mean, granted, the person who was interviewed for this time period, and not this time period, but the period of time that they worked at the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
they said that like they received thousands of, or that police were at the hotel thousands of times. So maybe it was the same way at that time, that like nothing big got reported on, but still shit was happening.
Right.
We just didn't hear about it.
Exactly. Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Maybe we should find police records. Everything that says the Cecil on it.
Ooh, that would be probably a huge fucking rabbit hole that you may never be able to get out of.
Well, that's what I'm afraid of. I can get out of this rabbit hole. I was like, where do I cut it for part 1 versus where do I cut it for part 2? I was like, are we even recording?
We are.
I freaked myself out. So anyway, February 11th, 1962. Julia Frances Moore, she committed suicide. She fell from her 8th-story window and she landed on the 2nd floor interior light well. She didn't leave any suicide notes, but her possessions were, she had a bus ticket, which was from St. Louis there.
Okay.
To Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
She had 59 cents in her pocket.
Aw.
And she had an Illinois bank book that had a balance of $1,800.
Okay.
So, I don't know. You're making me ask a lot of questions to myself here. Like, maybe this does just turn people, you know? But if you're checking under a pseudonym, you must have a plan, right?
Yeah. Or you just don't want to be found. And
Yeah.
you don't know that you're entering a suicide portal to hell when you step into the building.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's very fair. But a lot of people also didn't commit suicide in this building. So
Well, that's true.
maybe it just like ticks at those people who like have that switch maybe like half turned on.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Or maybe it's not really that at all. And they just went there to commit suicide.
That could also be fair. That it's just suicide hotel. Suicide capital USA. Probably actually might be suicide capital USA.
I don't know, but I feel like you can't make that statement without looking it up.
I don't want to look it up. I don't want to know where suicide capital USA is. But for purposes of my episode right now, I'm referring to the Cecil as suicide hotel capital.
Okay.
There we go. So not capital USA, suicide hotel.
Okay.
And then this one's crazy. This one just so crazy. Again, we're in the year of 1962. On October 12th, Pauline Otten, she jumped from her 9th floor window after an argument with her estranged husband, whose last name was Dewey, or first name, I don't know. I couldn't find his full name. It just said Dewey. So we're going to refer to him as Dewey.
Okay, well, it's probably his first name because if they're married, she probably has his last name.
That's probably fair, unless she didn't take his last name. Thank you for making me sound like an idiot.
Because, yeah, well, people were named Dewey.
So before she killed herself, she had left the room and she jumped out of her 9th floor window, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then when she's falling out of the window, she fell. She hit George Giannini, I think is how you pronounce his last name, which instantly killed both of them.
Oh.
So she hit a pedestrian falling out of the window. So this was like a suicide homicide.
Murder-suicide?
Yeah, that's also the same thing. Well, actually, I don't know if it would be a homicide or a murder, because it sounds more like manslaughter.
Oh, yeah. I guess so. But that's really sad.
So there were no witnesses, but at first, police thought that Otten and Giannini had both killed themselves. But then they later found out that, like, by examining his body, Giannini's, I hope I'm saying his name right. I think that makes the most sense. Giannini, yeah, Giannini. Giannini, yes. He had his hands in his pockets, and he was still wearing shoes when he died. So if he jumped, his shoes would have fallen off. I cannot English tonight.
Fallen off.
So his shoes would have come off like during the velocity of his fall, right?
Sure. I don't know. Why would your shoes come off if you're going to commit suicide?
Or when
what if they're tied really tight?
What if he, like, when he hit the ground as well, his shoes probably would have come off. Because this is probably a common theme that they're finding with people who are falling off the Cecil, their shoes are off.
Okay.
Or if they had any shoes in the first place.
Okay.
Maybe they all had no shoes, so they're just assuming their shoes are, like, a block down the street because of velocity or somewhere nearby, or they just didn't have shoes on anyway. And his hands would have also not been in his pocket.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the shoe thing. Because obviously he didn't commit suicide. She fell on him and manslaughtered him. But, yeah.
Manslaughtered him?
I don't know.
She manslaughtered him. Poor George.
Yeah, that's really sad.
Also, poor Pauline. Why you gotta kill yourself? Why everybody gotta kill themselves in this episode?
Yeah, this is not... You're the one that chose it.
Because it's so interesting. It's so fascinating to me. This place, which is literally like just a dark hole, is so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. We
can move on to a little bit more history on a little bit of a lighter note, if you will.
Okay.
So, according to LA, the Chamber of Commerce, roughly half of LA's downtown hotels, like the small hotels, they were demolished during the 1960s, which was a consequence of them upping their building code standards.
Okay.
And this contributed to the displacement of, all of these low-income, substance-dependent people, which were on Skid Row, also mental health problems, veterans with PTSD. So this contributed to them being unhoused.
Okay.
Again, right? Because, like I said, these people, when they get their money, they get like a little bit of money, right? What are they doing? They're buying alcohol. They're staying at a hotel for the night.
Yeah.
So.
They can't do that because the hotels are gone.
Yeah. So now they're back on the streets.
Okay.
So many of these people that ended up on Skid Row were, which is just, like I said, is just so close to the Cecil. Just so close. So crime became rampant around the area at the time because when there's drug use and there's alcoholism, there's like territorialness all within itself and, just crime running rampant.
People making real bad choices.
Yeah, but crime.
Crime's a real bad choice.
Yeah, I think I didn't do too much digging into like Skid Row crimes, which I'm sure I could rabbit hole again for days like I've been doing on the Cecil with.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm assuming, well, actually, I know that there's murders that have happened there and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So detectives in the Netflix series, The Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil, again, the one I've been referring to throughout this, they noted that LAPD, they would routinely respond to multiple calls a day from the hotel. Again, at this time, they're offering single room occupancy accommodations for these people that are down on their luck tenants. They would rent these solo rooms with shared bathrooms, sometimes on a long-term basis, sometimes on a short-term basis, but like these people don't have money for a deposit, right, into an apartment. So June 4th of 1964, Pigeon Goldie Osgood, who was 65, she was murdered by Jacques. Why is there an S at the end of it?
Because
okay,
it's
I'm
French.
done insulting people's names. Jacques.
Are you really?
Ellinger? I don't know. Anyway, he was 29. He was later acquitted of the murder. She was a retired phone operator, and she was found dead in her room by a hotel worker. She had been raped, stabbed, and struck, and her room had been, like, ransacked through.
Jeez.
So she was well known in the area, and her nickname, Pigeon Goldie, came from the fact that she was often feeding the birds at Pershing Square, which was close by to the hotel.
Aww.
And her Los Angeles Dodgers cap and a paper bag full of birdseed was next to her body when she passed away.
Aw, that's really sad.
I know. So Ellinger, however you say his last name, he was seen at Pershing Square with blood on his clothes hours after she was killed.
Okay.
So that's how they connected him. And he was arrested and accused, obviously, of killing Osgood, but he was later found not guilty. And like I said, like he was not, I guess, necessarily convicted for it because he didn't obviously get convicted.
So he wasn't convicted because he didn't get convicted?
He was accused of and stood trial for, but was not found guilty.
Okay, how did they prove his innocence?
I don't know how they proved his innocence.
Oh my god.
You know how hard this was to research on this shit? Because you know what? When you look up things,
Yeah.
you know what comes up regarding the Cecil?
Yeah. Elisa Lamb. Yeah.
Which that's going to be all of our part 2, which I will get all the nitty gritty, all the details that I can find, all the answers, make sure all my sources align with the right information.
Yeah. That's like when I was doing the Christmas killings, I was trying to find information about the victims because I always want to talk about the victims. And it just kept talking about those fuckers that did the crimes.
Right.
Like I would literally type in a victim's name and I would get nothing.
Yeah.
Or because then the victims' names maybe were common, like Sarah Abraham. So then I'd have to put in Sarah Abraham, Dayton, Ohio, 1992. And then it would fucking bring up those fuckers.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really, or it'd be like one sentence, the information that I could deliver to you.
Well, you know what?
So fucking annoying.
I really think, like, back to, like, the Junko case, that a huge part of it is because their stories have ended. And, like, we've talked about many a times here that we want to bring light to them, but there's not a lot of light to bring when there's no light shed in any place that we can find.
Well, that was very articulate given the way things have been falling out of your mouth tonight.
I know. But hey, at least for Pigeon Goldie, we have a little bit of information, like how she got her nickname, that she loved to feed the birds.
Yeah.
And all that. So anyway, her murder is still unsolved to this day.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I know. And yeah, she was well known.
Yeah.
So a little bit more history now for you about the area. In the early 70s, police tried containment of Skid Row. So that's where, like, people couldn't leave. They were, like, barricading the streets and people could not leave Skid Row.
What the fuck?
If you were part of Skid Row, you were there.
That's fucked up.
Isn't that fucked up?
Isn't that like some kind of imprisonment?
A little bit sounds like, right? But they were trying to, like, stop crime and, like, drugs from getting out of there.
Okay, that was a hard eye roll that you can't see because this is audio, not video.
Right. Which is, like, that's stupid. Like, how do you think the drugs are being produced in there? No, they're coming from outside of there.
Right.
That's not going to, like, help anybody. It's not going to stop anything. It's not going to help anybody.
No.
That's just fucking stupid.
It is stupid.
So there was obviously, like I said, like, a lot of drug and mental health problems within. So they're trying to contain these problems and a lot of violence and crime happening. And this was especially due to containment. Surprise.
Yeah,
like,
no shit.
So there's a lot of violent crimes happening outside of the Cecil now at this point. Like, a lot more than usual, which I just thought was worth the mention because I feel like when you talk about the Cecil, you can't not talk about Skid Row because a lot of the people that stayed at the Cecil were people off of Skid Row.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who were like witnesses to some things were people off of Skid Row.
Okay.
Witnesses to things at the Cecil, I mean.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Were like just doing these SROs for a night that they could afford.
Yeah.
Having a bed to sleep in for a night.
Mm-hmm.
Witnessing things.
Okay.
So December 20th of 1975, Allison Lowell, and that's in quotes. Lowell.
Okay.
That's in quotes. Because we don't actually know her name.
Ugh.
She was roughly 23 years old, they assumed.
Okay.
She died from falling from the building. And she, again, is a woman who has yet to be identified. But we do know that she fell from the 12th floor window onto the second floor roof at the Cecil. And she checked into the hotel under the name Allison Lowell. And she was staying in room 327.
Okay. Well, thank you. Because I was going to be like, well, how did they call her, in quotes, Allison Lowell if they don't know what her name is?
But they don't know if that's actually who she is.
Right.
That's the problem. And obviously that's the 70s, so. And I think it's, I don't know, I guess if she has like a name attached to her, she probably isn't like she's not Allison Lowell Doe, right?
Right.
So I don't know if we'll ever know who she is, like how they try and do all these investigating for all these Doe cases and try and give them their name back.
Mm-hmm.
Like she somewhat has a name that she checked in with, so I don't know if we'll ever know who she is.
And if she was staying on the third floor, obviously she went up to jump.
Yeah, like she wanted to end it, obviously.
Yeah, no kidding.
So now this is where we get a little juicy juice.
Okay.
Richard Ramirez, he stayed at the Cecil during his killing rampage, which lasted from June 1984 to August 1985. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Oh my gosh, you don't say.
Wow, way to be unenthusiastic.
No, sorry, because you're like, Richard Ramirez. I'm like, who?
No, he's one that he's such a dirty, sick fucker that fascinates the fuck out of me. He's another one that I want to do a deep dive into because I think he's such a sick fucker, but he's so interesting. Like, why is he so fucked up?
Well,
it fascinates me.
Well, you know why he's so fucked up. I mean, if you've ever
head injury,
head injuries, and like being exposed to major amounts of fucking violence when he was young.
Yeah.
So
right, what was it, like his cousin who shot his wife?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, not so much detail because I want to do a deep dive on it, which that's not even half the detail, actually.
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit. So at some point in 1985, I believe it was, he stayed at the Cecil, and he stayed at the 14th floor, where he paid $14 a night to stay in his room. So he was convicted of 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, and 11 sexual assaults. And it is said that he would be seen walking around the hotel covered in blood, and nobody ever spoke up about it.
What the fuck?
Like he was killing people and then returning back to his room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
And nobody just, they're like, there's Skid Row out there, a lot of crazy shit happening. We're in this hotel with a lot of crazy shit happening. Nobody bats an eye.
Right. That's fucked up.
And then it is also said that he disposed of evidence from his crimes, such as like his own blood-soaked clothes, in the dumpsters at the hotel. And he would just walk around the hotel naked.
What a fucker.
Yeah. And people like saw him in the bathrooms, because remember, these are communal bathrooms.
Yeah.
Like rinsing off all the blood off his body and just...
Gross.
Yeah.
Well, and people probably just assumed that he was like in a fight or something happened in Skid Row, not that he's a fucking serial killer.
I don't know if anybody was assuming that, because look at what Cecil is.
Yeah.
Maybe people did assume, but they just didn't want to poke the bear.
Yeah. Or get involved.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly like, shit, what if I say something and speak up, then he's going to come for me.
Yeah.
Not that he would, it's a tenant. It's a tenant place, so not that people would know exactly who said something. But still.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep nodding.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, Mom, speak.
Use your words.
Speak, Mom. Speak, Mom. So, in 1991, Jack Unterweger, I think that's how you say his name, he was an Austrian man. He stayed at the Cecil. So, in 1974, he was convicted of murder in his home country of Austria. And despite the life sentence that he got for committing murder, he was released on parole in 1990.
Okay. So that's not really a life sentence.
Right. And about 10 years after he committed the murder, he wrote a book about his life called Purgatory or a Trip to Jail and the Report of a Guilty Man. And it was a huge hit. It was like, hey, look at, like, official people. Look at me. I've changed. I'm reformed. Which obviously, like, what we're about to get to, like, spoiler alert, he didn't. Like, he wouldn't be a worthy mention at the Cecil if, like, he wasn't, right?
If he
was just a regular guy.
Right.
Who maybe can kill, well, I guess regular people don't just kill people. But anyway, he fooled, like, a lot of people, more than just the police at this time, when he got out of jail. So his story, right, this book he wrote about his own life, was used as an example of, like, look at how great the prison system is here. Like, it works. Like, look.
I'm reformed.
He did great. He's reformed. He's a new person. Fresh day. Fresh start in life, right?
Okay.
So then he went on to work as a reporter and a public radio host about true crime.
All right. So I guess report on what you know.
About his niche.
Right.
It's what he knows. His specialty, if you will. So then he ended up staying at the Cecil in 1991. And so he killed sex workers when he was in Austria. And then when he's staying at the Cecil, he went to the Cecil to report on crimes in the area and, like, nearby Skid Row and just downtown Los Angeles. Okay. That's what he wanted to do, was report on crimes in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But then while he's there, he killed 3 sex workers. Or 3 sex workers were found dead and attacked in the way that his crimes that he committed. And then they were able to link him to the killings. And you want to know the most disturbing fact of this episode?
Yes.
That when they looked at the cases more closely, they realized that the crimes that he committed, he was the one who reported on them.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Oh, fuck is right.
Wow.
Yeah, and I want to do I don't know, actually, if I want to do a deep dive on him. I don't know.
I've
Maybe
never heard
down
of him
the
before.
line.
I've never heard of him before.
I think I have other things that have piqued my interest sooner than him.
Okay.
But he obviously went back to jail.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, this crazy motherfucker. Can you believe that?
That's so weird. And I feel like not this guy, but I feel like it's, I don't know, is it from a movie or a TV show or something where people are like, somebody's like doing really bad shit and then reporting on it?
A lot of shows.
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot of storylines centered around those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Where they're, like, the ones talking about it.
And they're the ones that are doing it.
Yeah. It's fucked.
It's a theme.
Right, it's fucked.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he probably wasn't the first. He maybe just is the first to stay at the Cecil for it.
Yeah.
Or stay at the Cecil to report and to kill.
Right. Wow.
So our last case of the day, or of this episode of part 1, we're going to wrap it up after this, is about, this is going to piss you off, he's a John Doe.
I hate that.
So September 1st of 1991, he was a male. He was roughly about 20 to 30 years old. He fell from the building, and he was found in the alley behind the Cecil. He was an African-American man, and police said he either fell, he was jumped, or he was pushed from the 15th floor of the hotel. And again, he was in his 20s or his 30s, never been identified.
Wow. So that was 1991 or 1992?
1992.
Okay.
What did I say?
91.
Oh, I meant 92.
That's okay. I'm just reading your notes over your shoulder, so I'm like, if people know the story, they'll be like,
That's
that was in 1992.
Yeah, no, okay. That happened in 92. But that's where I want to wrap up, because that's kind of like the last reported thing on about in the 90s. And then we'll talk about the 2000s.
Okay.
So that's the last of the 1900s that's being reported on.
So that's a huge gap then. If 1992 is the last until we get to the 2000s.
Well, we've had a couple of time jumps. We've had a couple of gaps in the story.
We have. And like you said, maybe they're just not getting reported on because they're not that interesting, or they're not headline grabbers.
Yeah.
Because it's commonplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a commonplace for these things to be occurring.
Yeah.
And when in reality, like, I feel like if you look at these time frames, like where there's missing pieces, we can point out like world events that are happening at that time too, right?
Right. So maybe stuff just isn't getting reported on. And then again, like you said, when you look up stuff for the Cecil, the Elisa Lam stuff is all the stuff that's going to come up.
Don't worry, that's next episode.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to talk about amongst other things next episode.
Okay, well, I can't wait.
Me either.
And thanks for all the information and all the history and stuff, because
of the info I could find.
Yeah, no shit. Thanks for all of the information you could provide.
Yeah.
But I really like the history part. And especially like the Skid Row part, because I don't know where Skid Row came from.
Me either. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I pulled it directly off their website.
That's cool.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Appreciate all of the effort, because I know you've been rabbit holing.
I was like, I'm going straight to the source. What is Skid Row? Tell me the history.
I like it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not beating around the bush on this, which I think it would be fun in the future as well to do like a Skid Row deep dive. I mean, we've already provided some of the history, but get deeper into it. And then like talk about some of the crimes that have happened there.
If you can find them.
Yeah, that's the other thing, the big if. A bunch of Jane and John Does, too, which could also be a part of it.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks, Daph.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, and Happy New Year.
Oh.
We're in the new year. Okay. This is the first episode of 2023.
Is it for real?
Is it? It is. Is it for real? Is it? Is it? It is.
All righty.
It is for real. Take care. Have a good one. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.